Hey everyone, welcome to the Shred Podcast. This is episode 43, and this is our first podcast in a series where we are going to do kind of like Shred through the years. And so we are starting with Shred 1.0, and we have OG Shred members, Matt and Colleen Zetzer, and Jovanna and Noah Pugh. And so I want to start with, you guys have been at the gym as long as I have, and a lot of life events have happened over those years. So, I remember, Matt and Colleen, this is to you. I remember when Brian and Abby were really tiny.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brian's still really tiny. Just string bean.
And Abby is now getting ready to go to college this fall.
Yeah. Yep. Hard to believe, right?
It is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, Corey's only a year older than her, and they were hanging out together in the little squared off circle or whatever it was there in the corner where the kids had to stay during the workouts. And now they're going to both be in college this fall.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Don't get her crying. Don't get her start crying on the first episode.
And then Jovanna and Noah, you guys weren't even married when you started at Shred.
Nope, we were engaged, but we weren't married yet. We didn't have Ada yet, so lots of things have changed since we first joined. That's for sure.
And we got to celebrate both of those events with you as a gym community.
Yeah, it was awesome. We had a wedding shower and a baby shower with Shred.
That was awesome. Huge turnout too. Really is kind of like, I think, typical of why we love Shred, right? Is it becomes more of a family and the people you want to hang out with in your off time. And so I got to ask all of you, and you guys can decide who goes first, is what brought you to Shred in the first place?
I'll let Colleen, because she started before I did, so she's even more OG than I am. So that's a pretty good story.
Yeah, I remember my very first time walking in. Kathy Hare invited me to go because we taught together, and I walked in, and I think it was like you walked in like there was a warm up you had to do before the actual warm up, and it was during the second warm up that I was like, why is Matt not here? This is for him. This isn't for me. But that was my first time, and then I was like, okay, I think I can do this. And I begged him. I'm like, you got to do this. You got to come.
Yeah, and I was a little reluctant at first. Like most guys, I had just kind of been like a gym rat and didn't think that CrossFit was going to kind of meet what I was looking for. But it humbled me quick, and I was hooked ever since. So that was 1.0, almost 8, if not over 8 years ago.
8 years for me.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Jovanna, you were the first one in the door with you guys too, right?
Yeah. So for me, it was 2012, and CrossFit, I just kind of started hearing things about. It wasn't super popular yet. And I remember just really casually mentioning at lunch, hey, has anyone heard about this CrossFit thing? I don't really know much about it. And a coworker of both of ours, his name's Bill Gray, I didn't know at the time, but he grew up with Marcus and Nicole. He was neighbors with them. So he piped in and he was like, hey, a buddy of mine has got this gym. Like, I don't really know much about it. It's really small, but you should check it out. So that's how I got hooked up with Marcus. I probably would have never found it at that point in time otherwise. So that was spring sometime, like April or May. And then Noah was a cyclist, pretty heavy duty at the time. So I would come home and tell him about these crazy workouts that I was doing, and
especially Mikey Saturday classes where he always did a hero wad.
Yeah. And so after summer was over, he kind of decided that he was interested in it too, to at first gain better cycling, but now it's become much more of a full-time thing than that. So that's our story.
Yeah, so I flipped 180. So I was just doing it in the winter when I couldn't cycle, and then still cycling in the summer, spring more so than going to shred. And then now I haven't cycled in probably 2 years. So I have a bike in the basement that's collecting dust that I need to sell.
Well, and believe it or not, I was there Noah's first workout. Noah
No,
got
probably. How'd that go?
well. It didn't go well for me because it was a workout where we had to pair up, and your partner, we had to complete like 2 miles plus lifting in whatever order we wanted. And you took off on a run, and run out to the street, Industrial Parkway, and back. And you just kept running, and I had to match you. And I was like, "Who is this guy with these shoes?
With the shoes.
Shoes with the toes."
Oh yeah.
Oh, did I? Yeah, I had my toe shoes at the time.
Yeah.
And,
Those are probably from my half marathon.
yeah, absolutely wrecked me in the workout because of the running. And that was my introduction to Noah for sure. Like it was yesterday.
Don't ever ask Carl Long about Shred 2.0 and like fitness levels in a partner workout.
Yeah, well, we are going to do a series with Shred 2.0, but right now we're going to focus on 1.0 for now. And so I got to ask you guys, when you started at 1.0, it was a very different gym than it is today. Could you have ever imagined in that first couple years at Shred 1.0 that we would be in the space we are in today?
No,
No.
never. We had space for maybe like 4 or 5 people to do pull-ups at any given time. It
was on a monkey bar, so the ends were fat, and then you had the rings, and people were doing pull-ups in between the ring or in between the bars in the middle.
And there was a turf floor, and you had to put down sheets of plywood if you wanted a flat surface to lift or to do double unders on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
One small, like 3/4 tall brick wall to do wall balls on.
And you're so excited when you can get on the volleyball court.
That's right.
Yeah.
On the weekend.
You're like, oh, we can warm up out there today?
Yeah.
So let's describe that a little bit. We actually shared space with a volleyball center. So we only had the back fifth?
maybe.
Yeah, it was like less than a quarter.
Back fifth of the building. And oftentimes while we were working out, the volleyball teams were working out as well.
Yeah, and all the
So
parents were looking at us.
It was truly a shared space. And they also used the workout area to do conditioning and lifting. And sometimes we would be finishing as they were coming on. And so it got to be kind of a jumbled mess in the back. So let me ask you this. What are some of your favorite memories of what happened at 1.0?
Colleen, you want to talk to Julie?
Oh, I need Julie for the story though. It was my very first time doing Murph, and we were in a group. We were off to the side together, and yeah, it was brutal. Like I had no clue what I was doing, which I guess isn't that different in 8 years. But I was like constantly like, what am I supposed to do? I just followed whatever she did, and I mean, we laughed, we cried, we were in pain together. I mean, it was just, yeah, that was a good time.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it was watching Marcus, the anticipation of the workout, the WOD going up onto the whiteboard because we didn't know what we were, and him drawing stick figures to show what the movement should look like, and just really the simplicity of it all is some days I miss it, but I don't. I look back on it fondly and happy where we are now. But yeah, just kind of anticipating the WODs was a lot of fun.
And it's funny. It's funny now that people get upset when the WOD's not posted at 8 p.m. the night before. It wasn't posted 1 minute before.
Yeah.
It Shred 1.0. We would sit there and Marcus would start writing something and everybody go, ooh, and then he'd wipe it and then write something else.
Or like Matt said, he wouldn't even write the movements. He would just draw like a thing to make you guess what the movements are.
or a number.
Yes.
Yes. That was definitely one of my favorite parts, actually, was not ever really knowing what you were in for, just knowing that you were going to show up and do a workout with your friends and whatever it was. And I also, for some reason, I have a very vivid memory of meeting Tanya, Heath, and Janessa, because I showed up for one of my foundations classes, I think, that was after a WOD, and Janessa and Tanya had been for a walk. It was common for them to go walk out to Industrial Parkway and back afterwards. And they had just come back, and they introduced themselves, and then they were just like talking so fast about everything and who people were and what we were supposed to do. And I was just like, they were so super nice, you know, and I wasn't really ready for that, but I definitely remember meeting them and being excited to be a part of whatever was happening at the time.
One of my favorite Janessa stories was one of those times in the very, very, very early years, and you would go in, no cars in the parking lot, and you'd be like, okay, did I screw up the time? And then you'd be like, no, I'm good. And you're like, why am I so early? Then you realize you weren't early. Then you're like, oh crap, I gotta go in. And you knew that you might be the only one. And it was the first time that I ever got to meet Janessa. Thank God, because I walked in, I started to do that little few warm up, and I'm like waiting. And then Marcus walked, just finished working out. And I was like, oh, great. Now he's already worked out, so I know he's just gonna be all eyes on me. This is not cool. How do I get out of here? And then all of a sudden he goes, hey, do you mind if Janessa trains you today? And I was so relieved. And it was like, so I got to spend an hour with her, and it was just like working out with your best friend. And like you said, just so friendly and just chit chat and work out, and you walk away feeling so good. It was, I love that memory.
Yeah, I remember oftentimes when I was the first car to the parking lot, and I would park way back and wait for another car to show up because those workouts alone with Marcus were awful.
Yep.
I mean, he's
Yeah.
so meticulous about the movements. Like, you would get coached every second of your workout. Oh,
You can just say I got a worse time or rep count because of that. I had to stop and, get coached.
yeah.
Built-in excuse.
So what are a couple things that you miss a lot about that little space?
For me, it was definitely you knew every single person.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And these days it's awesome that Marcus and Janessa have built up such a great community and that their business is thriving. But it's hard to keep track of everybody that's new, especially if you always come in the morning like I do, and there's athletes that come at night and you just never cross paths. And so it's harder to keep track of all the names and faces, even though as much as you want to, I really wish I could know everybody there. It's harder. So that's one thing that I definitely miss.
Yeah, I think the surprise of the workouts, and then keeping the workouts simple. Since we didn't have a ton of equipment and we didn't have a ton of bumper plates or anything like that, the workouts were very simple and sweet, and that's kind of nice as well.
Yeah, and that's where I was going to go to earlier. The simplicity of it all, from what we had to the people we had to the space we had. It was the ingenuity you needed to have to get through some workouts, because you were doing pull-ups next to somebody doing rings, and you had to jump up, use a box, and Sean didn't need a box to get up onto the pull-up bar, so why are you using it? Somebody else can use. I mean, it's just kind of that communal atmosphere that we had then that has continued today, but there was a lot more simplicity back then.
I don't know how we did the first 12 days of Christmas, but it was
Oh my gosh.
it was a mess. You had to walk through like 5 stations to get to station 12, and then back through those 5 stations to get back to station 1. And then it was just crazy.
Even the filthy 50.
Yeah. Just anything that required a lot of equipment or coordination was, we made it. We're all alive. Not missing any limbs, but.
So that was part 1 of our walk down memory lane with our OG CrossFitters from Shred 1.0. We have a lot more in that conversation. I had a blast with my old friends, the Zetzers and the Pughs. So stay tuned to next week when we give you part 2 of their story of the original Shred 1.0. I hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you next time on the Shred Podcast.